Hi, this is Ken McCarthy with PlantWisdom.org, and as a lot of you know, I've taken a long break, haven't done an interview with anybody in a long time. Part of that is I just got busy with a lot of other projects, and the other part is I feel like the site's got so much that you really should be studying the site and not just piling more stuff on. But I came across some work on YouTube a couple of weeks ago that, I'll just be frank, it just blew my mind. It is wonderful. It's video lessons about foraging. There's a lot of sites like that, okay? This one is, in my opinion, epic. It is incredibly detailed, not in an oppressive sense. You know, it's not like you're being bombarded with more than you want to handle, but it's like everything that you need to know is laid out in beautiful detail. The photography is luscious. It's gorgeous. And then the other thing is I'm a Northeastern guy. You know, I came to the planet in Connecticut, you know, and I've lived most of my life in either New Jersey or the Hudson Valley. And I love the Sonora Desert. You know, I love the hills of Marin and Sonoma County. I love the Rocky Mountains. But to me, those are all pretty girls, you know, which is a good thing. Nothing wrong with a pretty girl. But this part of the world, to me, is my mother. So when I see our woods photographed so beautifully and spoken about with such elegance and understated reverence, I love it. What can I say? So today we're going to talk with the person behind this, Adam Haritan. Adam, welcome.
Thanks, Ken. I really appreciate all that you just said. It means a lot to me, and I appreciate your support.
Yeah, and Adam's site, everybody, is learnyourland.com, learnyourland.com. And, you know, no matter where you live in the world, you're going to get a lot out of what Adam's doing, because a lot of these plants are all over the world, or variations of these plants. But I'm telling you, if you live in that East Coast woodland district, which is huge, tens of millions of us live in it, you must get this. You know, you must. I'm just saying this. Please do it. And then also, Adam has a newsletter which I strongly recommend. If you subscribe to PlantWisdom.org, 100 times more, you should be subscribing to LearnYourLand.com. So for people haven't seen your videos yet. Well, some of them might have seen one because I posted one that you did. I forget what the topic was. Let me take a look at what. I just was so moved. I just had to post it. Nettle. Oh, my favorite plant. You did. By the way, I got to tell you, Adam, I got a message from a guy in Greece. And because in my email to my list, I said, hey, it might not be nettle time yet, because I think I sent it out in February. He said, and I said, but it will be soon. And then a guy from Greece wrote me and said, it's nettle time here. And he was very grateful for the video. So some of us have seen this stinging nettle video, and maybe some of us dug deeper and looked at your other work, but maybe there's a lot of people listening that haven't. So tell us, what are you up to here with this channel?
So I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/learnyourland, and I started it in, I would say, 2014, but it wasn't until about 2015, 2016 when I really started creating a lot more content and a lot more videos. And basically I take a camera out into the woods, mostly here in western Pennsylvania, and I film and photograph plants, mushrooms, and trees, and it's mostly education-based. Like, I don't go out for just entertainment and just show people, like, what I'm up to today, just, like, stumbling through the woods, and maybe I'll come across something, maybe I won't. I try to make it very focused and a very disciplined approach to it so I don't waste people's time, but also provide some reverence and some beauty into it as well. And it's mostly about foraging, what you can do with a lot of plants, mushrooms, and trees, and that's what I really focus on. So even though it is Learn Your Land, I have a strong focus towards the plant kingdom and the fungal kingdom. I would love to get more birds in there. I would love to get more reptiles and amphibians and all different kinds of things, but mostly right now it's plants, mushrooms, and trees. And there's over 100 videos on there right now. I mean, you can also access them by going to learnyourland.com, and you can see the blog, which has a little blurb about the video. And most of the videos are just between maybe 10 to 20 minutes, and I will keep doing them this year and probably next year and multiple years after that as well, because I enjoy it, and it's always nice to hear people like you complimenting them. So thanks for all your kind words so far.
Well, I just have to say it, and if anybody hasn't seen these videos, please check them out, and you'll see I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Like right now I'm looking at your homepage, Adam, and you've got basically a video montage of various things in the eastern woods. And I'm sure somebody's done something equal. I just don't know who it is. I don't know what you do. And the funny thing is, we were talking before the recording started, you're not going out there with a big film crew and like a film school graduate guy managing the production. Tell us how you're making these things.
Yes, I mean, it's basically just me. And that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, because I think one of my hang-ups in life is that I don't ask for help enough. And a lot of people have been offering help. And I'm always quick to say, like, no, I don't need help. I don't need help. I know it could probably be a lot better if I did ask for help. However, it's mostly just me doing all of this. And in many cases, it's 100% just me, with a lot of the filming and the editing and just uploading and the content creation and the researching as well. But I love doing this stuff. It's not like it feels like hard work to me. I mean, it is a lot of work, but it doesn't feel like work. It feels like play. It feels like fun. It feels like it's my work to the world. My passion just coming through with all of this.
Wow. Well,
I
really.
don't hire anybody for any of these things yet. However, that could change in the future. I don't know. But many times, I'm out all day in the woods, and I don't know if I'm going to find something worth talking about. And so it's difficult to want to bring a crew out there. And it's like, if we don't find mushrooms to talk about, or if there isn't anything that I feel worthy of putting into a video at that moment, I don't want to waste other people's time and just film something just for the heck of it. So many times, I mean, these things are just filmed at the spur of the moment, just because I found something worth talking about. And so that's
Really?
why I do a lot of this stuff alone.
Really? So let me ask about a day in the life of Adam Haritan. So you're out in the woods, and you've got your camera with you. You just always carry it with you?
Yeah, there's rarely a day where I'm in the woods and I don't have my camera. And in fact, if I leave the house and I forget it, it's like the first thing that comes to mind when I'm in the car. Oh, I forgot my camera. I got to run home. Yeah,
Wow.
I always have it on me. I don't take photographs on my phone or anything like that. It's an external, like, bigger camera. It's an Nikon camera that I use.
For tech geeks out there might be a few. What camera is it?
So actually, I mean, this is a common question that I receive because a lot of people want to know about the equipment that I use. It's honestly just a hand-me-down camera that was gifted to my brother about 4 or 5 years ago, and he gifted it to me because I needed a camera at the time, and I was using it, and he said, here, you can just use it. If I ever need it, I'll ask for it back. But it's an inexpensive Nikon Coolpix camera. It's meant for photographs, but it's got a video recording button on there, so I just hit the record button, and voila, it takes video as well.
Wow. Well, as I was saying, before we started the recording, I worked in the film industry, like the B film industry, feature films, Academy Award-winning documentary even. And I thought you had like some kind of wild setup. I thought you had a couple of guys out there with you. I can't even imagine how you're doing this. It's wonderful. So let me ask you this then. I've got another. I'm going kind of like fanboy here, but I can't help myself. So when you're talking about the plants, you are drawing on a lot of information. Is this stuff just at the tip of your tongue?
So it depends. It really depends on which video you're talking about. I would say most of the original videos that I've done, and even some of the more recent ones, depending on which platform I'm posting it to, I mean, some of them are just, I find something out there and I'll just talk about it based on what I know at that moment. Other times, I'll do heavy research for it. And lately, that's been the case with a lot of my videos. I know something's out there, so I will get really excited about it, and I'll run home and I'll do a lot of research, and I'll run back out there and I'll film it. But I don't have cue cards or like a teleprompter or anything like that. So I just thoroughly study this information and try to absorb it and just convey it the best that I can.
Oh my God! Because that was I said he must have a teleprompter. He must have somebody holding cards. He must have a research staff that's.
I get called out on that a lot. A lot of people say, like, great video, but I can tell you're reading cue cards, or I see your eyes shifting to the left and the right. You might want to put that teleprompter like more towards the camera. And I'm thinking, I don't even know like how to hook one of those things up. I don't even know how to use it. Most of the time I'm looking to the side because I'm trying to think. Like, when you think, you look to the side a little bit, or you look up to the left.
Of course.
Or I'm just looking for other hikers or animals, like, approaching me in the woods. So, I mean, you got to keep your senses engaged when you're out there. You can't just stay 100% focused on the camera. But I try to do that as best I can.
Right. Okay, so now that we've got all the tech fanboy questions out of the way, let's get serious. So tell us how did, when I say this, I mean your obvious love for the natural world and the eastern woodlands and plants. How did this start for you?
It started relatively late in my life. I mean, I wasn't really raised knowing about this stuff or taught a lot of this information. I did go camping a couple times. I spent a lot of time outside playing, but playing football or playing soccer or playing games with friends and neighbors and family. This stuff wasn't just in my family growing up. So I discovered this maybe about 10 years ago. And when I did it, I just went all in. Like, it made total sense to me. You know, I was kind of just drifting along in my life, and things just didn't seem magical to me at the moment, or it didn't seem like I was on any particular path or mission. It just didn't feel right, what I was doing at the time. And then I just started dialing in a health strategy, essentially, like eating better foods and drinking better quality water and monitoring my thoughts and exercising more and getting rid of the people who weren't supporting me in my path and bringing on more people who were supporting me in the path, and just trying to tweak things in my life. And as part of that process, I just started hanging outside more, just going for walks in the woods and hanging out there. But as fun as that was and as fulfilling as it wasn't deeply fulfilling because I didn't know anything out there. It would be fun to walk to the woods, but I would always leave with an empty feeling because I wanted to know, you know, what were those trees that I was walking by, or what were those plants, or what were those mushrooms. And it almost felt kind of lonely out there, just like being out in the woods by yourself and not knowing much at all. And so it just felt good to try to learn that information. And I did all that I could to try to acquire as much information as I could. And that meant joining botanical clubs, joining mushroom clubs, going on as many walks and nature events that the environmental centers would offer. And slowly but surely, I just built up a little bit of knowledge. And I'm still doing that to this day. I mean, I feel like I still don't know as much as I would like to know, or as much as I ever could know. So it's still a constant process of trying to learn the names of things that are out there and connecting to them beyond just, you know, walking by them or just saying, oh, that's what that is, or that's what that is, but actually taking the time to notice them. And I think that's where the videos have really supported me in that part of my work, because when you photograph something or when you do a montage on it or do a 20-minute video on it, you really have to pay attention to that organism for a very long time. I mean, when I talk about metals in a 20-minute video, I probably spent 12 to 24 hours just focusing on that plant, researching it, studying it, looking at it, and then videotaping it and photographing it. And so that's kind of how I got into this right now, and I only see it building from here. I don't see myself slowing down anytime soon because it just feels right. It's hard to put words to it, but I just know that this is what I need to be doing. And I don't like to tell other people what they should do, but I think if more and more people learned their land and learned about their land, there'd be a lot less suffering and a lot less confusion in this world.
Wow, I couldn't agree more. For some reason, I'm inspired to talk about this. You know, there was a great book. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who wrote it, but it was a sociology book, and it was sort of a critique of American society. And the title of the book was The Pursuit of Loneliness. And one of the things he was talking about is that, you know, we in the modern world, especially to a degree in the United States, it's a very atomized, broken up, lonely society. You know, we're disconnected from each other, we're disconnected from ourselves, and we're certainly disconnected from nature. And long ago, somebody talked me into the idea, and it stuck with me, that all these plants around us are alive and aware. And, you know, even if you're in the woods alone, if you know the plants, you're not alone. You know, I don't know if I'm expressing this very well, but, you know, if you're just walking through the woods and not paying attention and not connecting, well, yeah, that not much is going to happen. But if you start slowing down and paying attention and getting to know the plants, they're pretty good friends, you know? They're pretty good friends. And I want to talk about something else, too, kind of related that you make me think of. I have a conversation on plantwisdom.org with a Jamaican root doctor, basically. He's living in the Bronx now. He talks about his childhood, and he every day he was sent to the woods to gather things by his aunts and his grandma, and bit by bit he learned the plants day in, day out. He says, look, if you want to work with a plant, you can't just know the name, you can't just know what the book says, you can't just read the scientific literature. I mean, that's all good to know. You have to get to know the plant, and the only way to get to know the plant is to hang out with the plant, just the way you'd hang out with a person. And it seems like
I love that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like this work that you're doing puts you in that wonderful occasion to hang out with a particular plant for an extended period of time, and it's got to change a lot about your perception and your appreciation of given plants.
Yeah, for sure. And, I know a lot of botanists and mycologists, and one common theme that constantly is brought up whenever talking to them or whenever you listen to them or kind of listen between the words of what they're saying, they wish they could be outside more with the plants or with the mushrooms that they're researching in the lab. And they almost, and I'm not talking about every single one because obviously exceptions exist, but it just seems like a lot of the work in the botanical sciences and the mycological sciences are mostly done in the lab today, not necessarily in the field. And I think a lot of people lament that as well. They would rather be out there in the field learning this information. So I'm grateful that I honestly didn't have much of a science background in this information, and it's mostly just self-directed by me being out there and actually learning directly from the organisms that I'm interested in studying. But I obviously respect a lot of the people who are doing this work in the lab and doing a lot of the experimental studies because that's the information that I draw upon. I mean, I don't have $1 million laboratory in my house. I have to rely on PubMed or Google Scholar and seek this information out. But I think you got to have both of them. I mean, you can't just have one without the other. But I would honestly say that spending time with the organisms may actually be more important today, more than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, there they are. They're ready to give up their secrets, and they're not holding back. We're holding back, and there's no barrier. Nobody placed a barrier between us and this knowledge. The only barrier is self-imposed, really. And I guess that's one of the other things I like about these videos is you really, you're not preaching, you're not telling people what to do, you're not telling people how to do it, you're not telling people they should you're not doing any of that stuff. But by the way you present and work with the plants that you're talking about, you induce that, at least in me, and I have a feeling in other people who are watching these videos too. It's like, learning by example, teaching by example. I mean, you're sharing a lot of technical information, and which is extremely helpful to have that all in one place. But beyond that technical information, you're also sharing an attitude and a spirit and an approach to plants. So yeah, that was going to be one of my questions is, where did you get your advanced degree in botanical science? And the answer is you self-directed it over, I guess the last 10 years, and you're continuing to add to it.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a background in nutrition, so the nutritional sciences. So I'm deeply grateful for that. And honestly, how I got into nature was actually through nutrition. And I kind of alluded to that a couple minutes ago whenever I was talking about health and nutrition and focusing on my diet. So I studied that at the university level. And I was grateful because I did take biology classes. I did take organic chemistry and biochemistry. And that really helped at least learn about the phytochemistry of plants and the mycochemistry of mushrooms and being able to read the research as well because I mean, it's one thing to just read the conclusion in an abstract, but it's another thing to actually find that research and go down to the sources cited and dig a little deeper and actually sift through the methods and the materials and whether it's a qualified study, whether it's in a reputable journal, and then to distribute that information to the public. So I'm grateful that I have that background, that I'm able to do that, but I don't have any serious botanical background or mycological background. I still feel like I'm like a 7-year-old kid trying to learn this information. I'm trying to absorb as much as I possibly can. And honestly, one of the greatest tools that I have right now, and it's in my wallet, and it's the size of a credit card, and it's my library card. And I can't tell you how many days I spend at the library out of the month. I mean, it's almost every single day, if not every other day. Right now, at least, because I'm doing a lot of work there. But I'm so fortunate because in Western Pennsylvania, we have a huge library system with so many fantastic books, and it's not unheard of for me to have over 30 to 40 to 50, sometimes up to 70 books checked out at a single time. And I don't owe fines on most of them, by the way. I'm very good about it, returning them and things like that. But, I mean, some of these books, and I hope the librarians aren't listening, I've had checked out for maybe over 2 years because nobody else is checking them out. But they're such great resources, and I don't want to give them up just yet. But that's how I learn. I just keep seeking out the information, get the books out, dig into the research, and then spend time outside as well.
Gotcha. Well, it really shows, and it explains something. You don't have a research department. You are the research department. Yeah, I mean, if to try to, and I'm sorry to rhapsodize everybody about all the production sides, but I was a film guy for a while, and I just have to say this. To duplicate what you're doing by yourself would really be like 4 or 5, at least, full-time people plus a producer. And I'm not sure they would get as good results as you're getting doing it by yourself. But that's how you would staff a project like this. Now, I'm not encouraging you to complicate your life by doing that. You're actually doing it the right way, in my opinion, and I'm saying this now as a former film guy. The less crew, the better. And if you can do it yourself, you're way better off, you know. But for people that haven't seen Adam's channel yet, and again, it's at learnyourland.com, or you can go to YouTube, learnyourland.com. You'll see what I'm talking about when I talk about the depth of specific technical knowledge. And it's great that you have that sort of foundation in nutritional science and science in general, so that when you're reading the literature, you're not just reading random stuff. You actually know how to evaluate and analyze the technical papers you're reading, and that really comes through in Adam's work. So have you had a chance to travel and see other parts of the world?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Before I was into all this, I did travel mostly through North America and a little bit of Europe in a band. So I was a musician in my former life, and I still dabble from time to time, but I kind of did a complete 180 in my life and just kind of put that aside to focus on what I'm doing right now. So I did travel a whole lot, and lately I've been traveling more and more for work. I do a lot of presentations and workshops and courses out of state, but mostly in the northeastern portion of the United States and into the Great Lakes region. But I love all different areas of North America, but my heart is really set here in western Pennsylvania, like specifically western Pennsylvania. There's just something about it that just ties me here, and the more that I learn about it, the less I want to leave, because there's just too much to appreciate, too much to learn, too much to love. But I do appreciate going to other areas as well. But I wouldn't mind if I just spent the rest of my life around here.
Yeah, as I get finally older and more mature, I realize how unspeakably beautiful the place where I happen to land is. You know, I think it's a human tendency to be interested in the exotic and the far away and the distant and so on, and sort of almost discount the value of where you're from until you open your eyes and start looking. And I want to say to people who, you know, long to go to the Amazon jungle or one of those places, which is probably a great experience, I want to say that your backyard and your nearby woods has every treasure you could ever want. And again, that's another thing that comes out in these films, that you really make the eastern woodlands look beautiful. It looks a lot like the area where I live. I can see some differences, of course, but it feels like home when I look at your videos.
Yeah,
so
what's beautiful here? I mean, all year round too. I mean, it's spring right now. Still kind of feels like late winter though. I mean, some signs of spring are showing up, but you got to appreciate it all, because without these cold, dark winters, we wouldn't have a spring to look forward to. So I'm glad you appreciate this area as well.
It's true. Usually every year I escape. I've been going to Mexico or Guatemala. I've been lately going to Cuba. And, you know, it's great. This year I wasn't able to do that. I had to stay home. And I have to say, there's a power in the spring that you really can't fully experience unless you've gone through the winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know about you. I actually,
I'm really feeling it this year, too.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was just agreeing with you. I was agreeing with you 100% and saying I really feel it this year as well. I mean, I'm really itching to get out there. And I've been just visiting this one flower for the past couple of days, just waiting for it to open, because it's one of the first wildflowers to open. It's a spring beauty, and there's a hepatica right next to it. It's like I'm not going anywhere else except to those 2 flowers, because I know they're the first that are going to open up on this one particular hillside, just because it's getting a lot of sunlight. But I'm like, that's how eager I am to get out there and experience spring.
Wow. We had one spring day. We're recording this in late March 2019, and we had one spring day a couple of days ago, and I swear I could hear the earth like rumbling, you know, not big time, you know, it wasn't like a earthquake or something, but I could not only smell, first of all, it smelled different. The earth really, I could smell the earth, but I could almost hear it. And then, of course, it got cold again, but we'll wait. It'll come back.
Yeah, that's the Northeast for you.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, for a while I lived out in the Bay Area of California, which is, magnificent. There's just nothing deficient about it at all. But I would sometimes be walking around going, is it spring now or fall or what? I wouldn't even forget knowing the day or the month. I didn't even know what season it was because, there's just not that much variation in what's going on, out in nature. So tell us about so you've got your website. By the way, I have to ask, you have this great logo that's almost like a coat of arms. I love it. Well, how did that come to be?
Just working with a graphic designer, honestly, early on. I knew I needed a logo because, if you study any branding or marketing books, they always say, get a good logo. So I thought, okay, I'll invest in a quality logo. And I was fortunate that the web developers that I hired at the time also had a great graphic design department as well. And so we just worked on it and tweaked it a little bit. And I love it. It represents everything that I do. And I've had it just fully representing the Learn Your Land brand for the past couple of years. And, again, I don't see that changing anytime soon either. So if anybody's looking for a good graphic designer, let me know. I can recommend somebody.
Oh, okay. I might be asking you after the call. Okay. For people that don't see it yet, it's like a coat of arms. It's a shield, and in the upper left quadrant is a track. Looks like it could be anything, but it's a four-toed creature. Then to the right upper quadrant is a leaf, and then the lower right quadrant is the symbol of water, and then the left is the fungi mushroom. And it's cool. Are you a tracker as well?
Not as good as I'd like to be. I appreciate the tracks. I look for them. I try my best to identify them and follow them. Again, this isn't something that I was taught growing up, and so I'm very late to the game in this. And I've just been really focusing on plants and mushrooms and trees. But anytime I see a track, I'm like, what is that? I got to figure that out. So I'm slowly developing those skills as well. But I'm not an expert by any means in tracking. How about you?
Gotcha. No, not at all. Not at all. I know enough about it to appreciate the people that can do it well. Mm-hmm. And I think to do it well, you mentioned that you're a musician. What it takes to go from sitting down, let's say at the piano for the first time, to the point where you're playing just from your head, just improvising, that learning curve is the same learning curve as becoming a good tracker. It's not a trivial thing. It's quite an undertaking to really get good at it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking for mentors and teachers around here. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of friends who are into that. Most of the people around here are into mushrooms or plants or trees. Yeah, there are a couple trackers out here in Western PA. I just don't know them yet, but maybe if somebody's listening to this, they can point me in the right direction. I would really love to learn that information. And specifically here in Pennsylvania as well. I know there's great schools out there all around the continent. I'm really focused on this particular area, this region.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a I don't know if he still teaches, but he taught a lot of people. You might probably have heard of him, Tom Brown.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's a household name.
Yep. I actually did take a couple of courses at his farm years ago in the 80s. And those were pretty amazing. That's where I learned my respect for tracking, because when you see people that can really do it, most people think tracking is you see a perfectly formed paw print in the clay, right? And then you go to your book and you say, "Oh, it's a bobcat." No, they're looking at the way a twig was broken, and they say, "Oh, well, a bear must have stood on that because," and they give you 10,000 reasons why a bear cracks a twig that way when they walk on it. You're like, "Oh my God, how is
mind blowing?
How is it possible?" Yeah. Hey, do you do any teaching of children?
Yes, I do. It's not something that's a main focus of mine, but I've done over the years. Every year I usually get called in to do schoolwork for classrooms or homeschools, and so, yeah, I've done that in the past, and I enjoy it. It's interesting working with kids because they've got so much energy, and you have to meet them at that level and then go beyond it and then sustain that for hours at a time because they'll just jump on you if you don't have that kind of energy. You're never going to be able to hold their attention at all. And so it's fun working with kids, and, I kind of see their enthusiasm as my enthusiasm as well, because I honestly feel like I'm such a kid learning this information because I'm somewhat new to it. So I feel like I'm right there with them but maybe better able to communicate the information to them. But yeah, I love working with kids, and maybe in the future I'll work with them a little more. Most of my programming seems to be at the adult level for now.
Yeah, I just can imagine, because kids really, you never know. They learn something when they're 6 or 8 or 10, and you don't think it's sinking in, and then years later you discover, wow. They tell you, oh no, that changed my life. I've been on this path ever since I took that little course with you. You just never know. It's a very fertile field, to work with kids, and you just don't know what. I remember, I tell you, I once went on a walk when I was 7 with friends of my parents. They took us on a walk in the East Oakland Hills, very dry, very hot. And at the time, I was like most kids of American descent. I was a soda junkie. I thought that the natural drink was Coca-Cola, and that drinking water was some kind of horrible deprivation. And so we're out in these hills, and it's hot. The sun's beating down. I mean, I'm digging it. I'm really enjoying it, but it was challenging. And they had water, and I remember the guy. And I'm 7 years old. And the guy said to me, "Well, here's the deal. If you drink water, you'll only drink as much as your body really needs, because your body will know, oh, I have enough now. But when you drink soda, your body never knows, and you'll just keep drinking, and it won't be good for you." And that lesson went in, and it stuck. So we never know what's going to stick. So if there's anybody out there in the western Pennsylvania area, I guess can we say eastern Ohio too, right? Do you ever? I mean, it's similar.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's only an hour drive west of where I am, so yeah, it's pretty close.
And then south of you, what's south? What's the state south?
West Virginia and Maryland, and then you get down to the Appalachian region.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've done events in all those areas as well. I mean, the climate's pretty similar, the geology's pretty similar, the altitude's pretty similar in many of these areas, so there's a lot of commonalities between all these particular areas. I just keep saying Western Pennsylvania. It's just because where I live. But Ohio applies, parts of West Virginia, Maryland. I mean, even into New York as well at the top of the state. It's all pretty similar.
So if anybody's in that region who's listening to this, who's involved in education, definitely contact Adam. And which brings up this point. So we've got the videos. What if somebody wants to do more with you? How do they do more? Like if they want to study with you, or they want to learn more, or they want to see you speak, or how do people do that?
So I do multiple programs throughout the year. I mentioned this a little earlier. The best way to stay in touch with that would be to go to learnyourland.com and sign up for the email newsletter. Right around May is when I start my speaking schedule and tour, essentially. I'll be heading to Wisconsin. I'll be doing some events in West Virginia, into New York, and mostly through Pennsylvania and in Michigan as well. Most of these are just public events. Anybody can come to them. There might be a cap on how many people can attend. A lot of these are big, like foraging gatherings. Some of them are smaller events. I don't do too many private events anymore. I used to do a lot of that just because of time restraints. But I also am about to release an online mushroom foraging course. So you can work with me there. I have about 70 brand new videos coming out that guides you through all the seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter, and teaches you how to forage wild mushrooms, all from the comfort of your computer. But there'll be a lot of videos and supplemental materials, and it's a huge project for me. I didn't realize how much work this would be, but it's fine. I can finally see the end of it. Slowly but surely it's coming around, and in May that should be released. So if you're interested in foraging wild mushrooms and you don't know where to start, or maybe you're scared, or maybe you don't know how to differentiate between a poisonous one, edible, or medicinal mushroom, or you don't know what to do with mushrooms once you bring them home, because, foraging is one thing, but then properly storing them and preparing them and preserving them and making extractions out of them, that's a whole other skill set entirely. So this course will cover all of that. And again, you can find that on the website. But yeah, if anybody's interested in learning this information, I'd love to meet you sometime this year or some year moving forward.
Great. So to get on Adam's list, go to learnyourland.com, and right on the homepage there's an opt-in box. And I'm going to guess, Adam, that you don't spam people and you don't send people a lot of extraneous stuff. You only
No, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I did that. I'm very careful with what I send out to people. maybe once or twice a month I'll send an email out, and it's all educational. I mean, like what you're saying about the videos, you were saying basically, I don't really talk about myself too much in a lot of the videos. It's mostly about the plants. It's mostly about the mushrooms. I don't really have much of an agenda to push other than this is my love for the plant, this is my love for the mushroom, here's why it's incredible, here's why it's awesome. If you want to get into it too, then here's a video you can watch. And if not, that's cool because I know we all have our own schedules. We all have our own interests as well. I'm not really trying to push much just beyond my love and my passion. I almost feel like I have to give back to the land in some way because, you know, I use its oxygen and I eat its food and I drink its water. And so the least that I can do is just share my love for the land by putting out these videos and sending out this content. So if you would sign up for the email newsletter, you're not going to get spammed or anything like that. If you would happen to, please let me know, and I will do all that I can to make it up to you.
Great. So that's learnyourland.com, and you really are giving back in a major way. Those of you listening that have seen these videos, you already know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, really drop everything and look. And you be the judge yourself. You know, don't listen to my ranting, you know, but at least do look. And I think if you look, you're going to be hooked in a very good way. You know, as an old guy who's going to be 60 soon, I just have to say this. You know, we hear all this trash talking about millennials, you know, and all this, and I hate it when I hear that stuff because it's so false. And, you know, here's Adam, you know, I guess you're part of that group, right? The millennial group, are you? I don't know.
I guess so. You know, I don't even know, like, what like, what years, like, correspond with which name that people are calling us. Maybe I'm a millennial. I don't know. I'm in my 30s, so if I'm a millennial, then I guess I'm a millennial.
Okay.
I don't like stay up late at night thinking about it or worrying about it too much.
I'm sure you don't, but you know, if anybody has anything to say about this cohort of people, you know, first of all, it's ridiculous. Second of all, you really need to look at all their work. And this guy's doing great work for everybody, for humanity, for nature. Everybody I know listening. Well, actually, I'm going to probably broadcast this to a number of different lists, but I know the plantwisdom.org list they're going to get what you're doing right away, and they're going to really appreciate it. So, guys, go to learnyourland.com. Take a look. If you like what you see, join the list so you can keep up with Adam. If you live in the great Northeast, Middle Lakes region, you might even be able to go out and hear him speak sometime. If you're a mushroomer, keep your eyes out for this course because I don't think there's anything like it. I knew the late Gary, and of course I'm so bad with last names, but I think his last name was pronounced Lindoff.
Linkoff, Gary Linkoff.
Linkoff. And I actually went on. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we just passed the 1-year anniversary of his death a couple days ago.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
He's a huge inspiration in my learning, and I had the good fortune of meeting him a couple times. He's actually from Pittsburgh. So,
my God, I'm just, you know what?
We have a lot in common.
I'm just looking that up, and sure enough, I had the great pleasure of going on a couple of mushroom walks with him in Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. I even took a class with him at the New York Botanical Garden. And he was a hell of a guy. And did you ever get to chat with him or meet him or?
Yeah, fortunately, I was able to interview him for the Learn Your Land channel. So I have a YouTube video that's just dedicated to him. Dedicated to him essentially. There's a lot of footage that I didn't release, but you can find that video on the Learn Your Land YouTube channel. But he was a great guy. I mean, one of the first mentors that I met in the mycological world. And what I liked about him was that he didn't have an agenda. Like, he wasn't trying to sell anything, you know? It was just him just teaching about plants and mushrooms. I mean, and he was like the #1 guy, too. I mean, for mushrooms in North America, like, everybody knew his name. And he could have sold a lot, or he could have had 1 million Instagram followers if he wanted to, but that wasn't him. He was just happy to show up with 20 people on a cold Sunday day in the Bronx and show people mushrooms that are growing in the park. And he was a generalist, too, you know. He didn't just talk about mushrooms. He knew the trees. He knew the plants as well. And he would talk about the relationships. So, yeah, I admire him a lot. And it was a sad day when he passed away last year.
Yeah, well, he left a good student behind. And I don't know anybody that's put together such a comprehensive video resource on mushroom gathering as you're working on? I mean, I'm not aware of it. I mean, part of it, we were talking about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, part of this, we were talking about this earlier before the recording started, is, we're in a totally different media landscape. And, when I was coming up, there would have been no way to do 70 videos on mushrooms without a multi-million-dollar budget. You just couldn't have done it. Like, it wouldn't have been physically, financially feasible. But thanks to all these pretty advanced tools we have, somebody with the will and the motivation and the passion to share can really create a lot of educational material. So you are perhaps the pioneer of doing this really super comprehensive video-based training in this area. So my hat's off to you. So for everybody, again, can't say it too many times, go to learnyourland.com, check it out. If you want to keep up with Adam, subscribe to his list so you can find out what he's up to next. And I guess you'll find out about new videos when they come out, and where he's speaking, and about the mushroom course when it's launched around May sometime. And Adam, I want to thank you for this beautiful work. It's really enriched my life tremendously. And thank you also for the time today.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. It was great talking to you. And thanks for all the work that you're doing. I mean, I know a lot of people appreciate it, myself included. So keep it up.
Okay, thanks.